Well, here at Trinity, before we get into the sermon, we have what's called a Worldview segment. For those of you that are guests with us, so once again, welcome. The reason we do a Worldview segment is we believe as a church we exist as a spiritual crossroads where moral, cultural, social, political issues collide with biblical truth. We base this on a verse of scripture out of the Old Testament, 1 Chronicles 12:32, which says this: the sons of Issachar had wisdom regarding the times in which they lived, and they knew what they should do. So we are believing two things for Christians today. Number one, you need to be informed so that you could know how to pray, so that number two, you can be empowered to act. Now, Peter, on the day of Pentecost, which we're celebrating Pentecost, it's Pentecost week. Pentecost Sunday was last Sunday. All week has been Pentecost week. In Acts chapter 2, verse 40, he said this: save yourself from this wicked, perverse generation. But not only are we to save ourselves from this wicked and perverse generation, in the process, we're to help save others. So as the times get tougher, our sermons can't keep getting weaker in churches, and we live in a world filled with lies. We need to continue to deal with the truth. So it's hard to believe that NBC and Peacock, they have no shame. They produced a documentary on diversity in the animal kingdom called Queer Planet, believe it or not. That's right, the DEI indoctrination, diversity, equality, inclusion, has descended upon the animal kingdom. This movement has all but taken over media, entertainment, education, politics, whole religions and denominations, and now they've assaulted the animal kingdom. Now, I wouldn't call it a documentary, I'm calling it a duckumentary, because it has more quackery in it than, a duck pond at feeding time. This new series, highlighting LGBTQ plus themes, which includes portrayals of what they describe as gay and transgender animals. Are you kidding me? I'm not making this up. This radical movement has no shame, no boundaries. Now, the series that's being previewed, that's going to be playing during Pride Month this next month in June, they're challenging the traditional concepts that there are only two fixed sexes, that concept has become outdated. Now, we know this, we recognize this during COVID. 21st century science has been politicized. So much of what passes for science today is really confirmation bias. You see, if you start with a hypothesis and search for evidence to prove it, it becomes confirmation bias. Confirmation bias is the tendency to search for and interpret and remember information and data that suits your political persuasion, your preconceived ideas. This leads, those of you that are scientists, you know this, to statistical errors. Research on same-sex behavior in animals has gained more momentum and attention now than ever before because of a political agenda. There are abnormalities in the animal kingdom that's clearly stated in research. But Karl Popper argues, quote, scientific theories must be falsifiable. Scientists should attempt to disprove their hypotheses as a way to rigorously test their validity. So let me give you a biblical worldview on this sordid topic. 3 important points. Number 1, there is divine design and divine purpose to all that God created in this world. Bible-based theology holds to the truth that God created the natural world with a specific order in mind and a specific purpose, particularly concerning humankind and animal kind. Human behavior and animal behavior. There's a scriptural basis for this, of course. In Genesis chapter 6, verse 19, God instructed Noah that you are to bring into the ark 2 of all living creatures, say these next 3 words with me, male and female, to keep them alive with you. It's a good thing that Noah didn't go through DEI training. Instead of asking, he would have then had to have asked each animal, Mr. Elephant, how do you identify? Do I have your pronoun right? All the animals never would have gotten in the ark. No, Noah operated under the old-fashioned method. Yep, this one's a boy. Yep, this one's a girl. Into the ark, problem solved. In Genesis 1, 28 and 27, God describes his creation of man, male and female, that he did it in his own image, in his own likeness, male and female. Only humans, not animals, only humans have a spirit. Only humans are created in the image and likeness of God. Only humans have rational intelligence. Animals operate under instinct. That is their instinctual behaviors. And then God said to man, he said, be fruitful and multiply. Now listen very, very carefully. This passage is interpreted to emphasize heterosexual relationships as part of God's divine design for reproduction and the continuation of the species. By extension, the natural order observed in animals could be seen as reflecting this divine mind, this divine intelligence behind it all, where sexual behavior, even amongst the animals, is primarily oriented towards reproduction. Hence, one male, one female of every species on the ark in order to continue the species remaining alive. Now, there's a second argument, anthropocentric view of creation. Some believe there's not a distinction between man and animal, but there in Scripture is a clear distinction between humankind and animal kind. Humans are the centerpiece of God's creation. Theology in the Bible clearly establishes this tradition. It places humans in a unique position in creation, just under the angels in our abilities. Only humans, not even angels, were created in the image and likeness of God. Below humans are animals. This is why in Genesis 1:26, God gave humans dominion over animals, implying that animals function instinctually, humans rationally and intelligently, at least most of the time. This is planet of the humans, not planet of the apes. Although I would vote for some apes to run for Congress compared to what we do have in some congressmen and women in Washington, D.C. today. Now, once again, animals operate under instinctual drives, not moral choices. Humans have the ability to make moral choices between right and wrong. To attribute human-like orientations to animals is highly inappropriate and unscientific. The concept of sexual orientation that humans struggle with the complex psychological, moral, theological, social dimensions is unique to humans and not applicable to animals. The third and final argument is this: the fall of the natural world. Biblical theology teaches us that the natural world, including animals and all their behavior, was directly impacted by the fall of man in Genesis 3. After the fall of man, sin entered into this world and literally turned creation itself upside down. Sin introduced disorder and corruption into creation. Paul the Apostle in Romans chapter 8, verses 20 through 22 tells us that the earth itself is subjected to the curse of sin. The earth itself is in frustration. The earth itself is experiencing bondage and decay. He said the earth itself is in birth pains, awaiting the manifestation of the sons of God when the chaos goes back to order, when the disorder goes back to the original way that God designed it. Earth itself is going through turmoil right now because of the curse of sin. From this perspective, any non-normative behaviors in animals are part of the corrupted natural order rather than indicative of human or animal choice. Now listen, what's the agenda of Queer Planet, this documentary? There is a sick, abnormal attempt, diabolical attempt to normalize relations between humans and animals. And only God can save us from such a diabolical threat.